Too aggressive to live, USS Wahoo sank 20 ships and 5 patrols, then vanished. Part 1. Too aggressive to live, USS Wahoo sank 20 ships and 5 patrols, then vanished. In the dark depths of the Pacific during World War II, a new predator prowled the seas, the American WW2-class submarine. These were technological marvels of their time, nearly 312 feet long, armed with 10 torpedo tubes, and capable of diving to 300 feet. They were designed to be the silent hunters of the U.S. Navy, the tip of the spear in the war against Japan. But a weapon is only as good as the warrior who wields it. And in the early days of the war, one of these formidable boats, the USS Wahoo, was anything but legendary. In fact, its story was one of frustration and failure. Under its first commander, the Wahoo's initial patrols were deeply disappointing. The crew was eager, the boat was powerful, but something was missing. The tactics were overly cautious, steeped in peacetime doctrine that just didn't work in the brutal reality of war. They would approach a target, fire a few torpedoes from a safe distance, and then dive deep, often missing the chance to confirm a kill or press the attack. The crew's morale began to sink. They had one of the best submarines in the fleet, but they were accomplishing nothing. They felt like they were just observers in the war, not participants. The Wahoo was a ghost, but not the kind that haunted the enemy. It was haunting its own crew with missed opportunities. Then everything changed. A new commander stepped aboard, a man who would transform the Wahoo from a timid observer into the most feared predator in the Pacific. His name was Dudley Morton, but everyone knew him by his nickname, Mush. Morton was a force of nature. He was energetic, charismatic, and possessed a burning, almost reckless aggression that was the complete opposite of his predecessor. He didn't see the submarine as a vessel for hiding. He saw it as an offensive weapon, a warship meant to hunt and destroy. Mush Morton had a simple, yet radical philosophy. He hated hiding. He believed that the best defense was a relentless offense. Why sneak away after firing when you could stay and fight? Why let an enemy ship escape when you could chase it down on the surface? This was unheard of at the time. Submarines were supposed to be covert, to strike and vanish. Morton wanted to strike, and then strike again. He gathered his crew and laid out his vision. He told them that the days of cautious patrols were over. From now on, they were going to be aggressive. They were going to take the fight to the enemy. The crew, starved for action, was electrified. Finally, they had a leader who shared their hunger for victory. To execute his aggressive new strategy, Morton needed a second-in-command who was just as sharp and daring as he was. He found that man in Lieutenant Commander Richard O'Kane. O'Kane was the perfect executive officer for Mush. He was meticulous, a master of the technical aspects of submarine warfare, and he had a cool head under pressure. While Morton was the fiery heart of the Wahoo, O'Kane was its brilliant mind. He could calculate torpedo solutions in his head faster than any computer of the day, and could anticipate the enemy's moves with uncanny accuracy. The partnership between Morton and O'Kane was electric. They were a perfect team, complementing each other's strengths. Morton provided the fearless leadership and the strategic audacity, while O'Kane provided the tactical genius and operational precision to make it all work. O'Kane wasn't just a subordinate. He was a trusted partner in command. Morton valued his input, and their discussions in the conning tower became the stuff of legend. Together, they forged a new way of fighting, one that would rewrite the rulebook for submarine warfare. The core of their shared belief system could be summed up in 3 words: tenacity, always tenacity. This wasn't just a motto, it was their command philosophy. It meant you never give up on a target. You pursue it relentlessly. If your torpedoes miss, you surface and chase it down with your deck gun. If the enemy fights back, you fight back harder. Morton instilled this mindset in every single man aboard the Wahoo. He taught them that fear was a tool to be used against the enemy, not something to paralyze them. He believed that if they were tenacious enough, they could overcome any obstacle and defeat any foe. This philosophy wasn't about reckless bravado. It was about calculated aggression and an unshakable will to win. It was this very tenacity that would soon turn the tide for the Wahoo. On its third war patrol, the first under Morton's command, the Wahoo left port a completely different boat. The crew was buzzing with a new sense of purpose. They were no longer just sailors, they were hunters. And their hunting ground was the shipping lanes of the Empire. It didn't take long for them to find their prey. They encountered a Japanese convoy, and instead of the old, cautious approach, Morton did something shocking. He executed a daring down-the-throat shot, firing torpedoes directly at an approaching destroyer. It was a high-risk, high-reward maneuver that paid off spectacularly. The destroyer was hit and crippled, but Morton wasn't done. Instead of diving and sneaking away, he surfaced in the middle of the convoy. In broad daylight, it was an act of supreme confidence, bordering on arrogance. Panic erupted among the Japanese ships. They scattered, firing wildly. The Wahoo, now a surface warship, weaved between them, its deck gun barking, finishing off damaged vessels and sowing chaos. O'Kane was a whirlwind of activity in the conning tower, calling out bearings and ranges while Morton, with a grin on his face, directed the battle like a conductor leading a symphony of destruction. By the time they were done, multiple ships lay burning and sinking. The news of the Wahoo's third patrol sent shockwaves through the U.S. Navy. They hadn't just sunk ships. They had shattered the conventional wisdom of submarine warfare. Mush Morton became an instant legend. His message back to base was simple and iconic. Wahoo and from front lines. All torpedoes expended. He had done in one patrol what many submarines failed to do in their entire careers. The crew, once demoralized, were now heroes. They had tasted victory and they were hungry for more. The Wahoo's subsequent patrols were even more legendary. Morton continued to push the boundaries, employing tactics that other commanders wouldn't dare to dream of. He famously took the Wahoo into the heavily fortified Wewak Harbor, a place no submarine was supposed to be able to enter on the surface. He sailed right in, sank a destroyer with his last torpedo, and then escaped amidst a hail of gunfire. His official report of the incident was classic Mush Morton, understated and laced with dry humor. He wrote that he was met with very spirited and uncivil treatment. Another time, he pursued an entire convoy on the surface for hours, engaging them in a running gun battle. The Wahoo was faster on the surface than most of the merchant ships, and Morton used this advantage to its fullest, circling them like a wolf herding sheep. He and O'Kane worked in perfect sync, one directing the ship's movements while the other directed the guns. They sank ship after ship, leaving a trail of wreckage across the Pacific. The Wahoo became known as the one-sub Wolf Pack. The Japanese were terrified of it. They started rerouting convoys to avoid the areas where the Wahoo was known to operate. One submarine, under one commander, was altering the strategic landscape of the war. The legend of Mush Morton and the USS Wahoo is a powerful story of leadership and innovation. It shows how one person's vision and courage can transform an entire organization and change the course of history. Morton didn't just command the submarine. He inspired a revolution in naval tactics. He proved that, with the right mindset, tenacity, and a willingness to challenge the status quo, the impossible could become possible. The story of the Wahoo is a testament to the idea that it's not just the technology that wins wars, but the spirit of the warriors who wield it. Though their story ultimately ends in tragedy, the legacy of Mush Morton, Richard O'Kane, and the valiant crew of the USS Wahoo lives on, a shining example of bravery and fighting spirit. Part 2. Rewriting the Rulebook. Tactics of the Maverick. In the vast, unforgiving theater of the Pacific War, one name became a legend, whispered with a mix of awe and terror by his enemies: Dudley "Mush" Morton. He wasn't just a submarine commander. He was a renegade, a maverick who threw the standard rulebook overboard and rewrote naval warfare with every patrol. We're diving deep into the audacious tactics of the man who commanded the legendary USS Wahoo. Most submarine captains of the era were trained to be cautious, to fire torpedoes from a safe distance and from the side of a target. Morton found this boring and inefficient. He pioneered a terrifying tactic that became his signature, the down-the-throat shot. Imagine a charging destroyer, its bow wave churning, coming straight for you, depth charges ready. The textbook says dive deep, run silent. Morton's playbook said, hold your ground, face it head-on, and fire your bow torpedoes straight down its throat. This was a high-stakes game of chicken played with thousands of tons of steel. It required nerves of ice and pinpoint timing. A fraction of a second too late, and you're history. But for Morton, the reward was worth the risk. It was a guaranteed kill shot, and more importantly, it was a profound psychological blow. He wasn't just sinking ships, he was hunting the hunters. This aggressive mindset extended to his weapon of choice. While torpedoes were the submarine's primary weapon, they were also precious and, in the early war, notoriously unreliable. They could miss, fail to detonate, or run too deep. Morton hated leaving the job half-finished, so what did he do? He fell in love with his deck gun. After crippling a target with torpedoes, most subs would slip away. Not the Wahoo. Morton would surface, sometimes in broad daylight, and order his crew to man the deck gun. They would pound the wounded vessel until it slipped beneath the waves, ensuring there were no survivors to report their position or tactics. This was surface warfare, fought from the deck of a submarine. It was brazen, it was brutal, and it was incredibly effective. It turned the Wahoo from a silent hunter into a visible, terrifying predator, a pirate ship of the modern age. But Morton's true genius shone brightest when the sun went down. Darkness wasn't a time for rest. It was his operational playground. Under the cloak of night, he turned the Wahoo into a ghost. Standard doctrine called for slow, submerged travel to conserve battery power and remain undetected. Morton did the exact opposite. He ran the Wahoo on the surface at full diesel power. Submarines are actually much faster on the surface than they are underwater. He used this speed to race ahead of Japanese convoys, positioning himself perfectly for a dawn attack. He could outrun their escorts, appear where he was least expected, and strike with shocking speed and precision. While other submarines crept along in the dark, the Wahoo sprinted, using the night not to hide, but to hunt. This high-speed surface running was a radical departure from convention, a tactic that left Japanese commanders baffled and his own superiors speechless. Perhaps no single event better captures Morton's audacity than the legendary Wewak raid. Wewak Harbor, in New Guinea, was a heavily protected Japanese staging area, considered an impenetrable fortress. It was shallow, mined, and crawling with patrol boats. Sending a submarine in was considered a suicide mission. So of course, that's exactly where Morton decided to go. In February 1943, under the cover of a moonless night, Morton navigated the Wahoo through the treacherous, uncharted waters right into the heart of the enemy harbor. He didn't just sneak in. He went on a rampage, but the story gets even crazier. As he was lining up a shot on a destroyer, he spotted a periscope. Another submarine was in the harbor. Believing it to be Japanese, he prepared to fire. In a heart-stopping moment, he held off, a gut feeling telling him something was wrong. It was a wise decision. That other periscope belonged to a fellow American submarine, the USS Albacore, which had independently decided to raid the harbor on the same night. The chaos and confusion were immense, but Morton's cool head prevented a friendly fire disaster. Although he didn't sink any ships inside the harbor that night, the sheer nerve of infiltrating Wewak sent shockwaves through the Japanese command. They were safe nowhere. Morton's defiance was not just a matter of tactics, it was a philosophy. He treated the Japanese coastal defense with utter contempt. He would often run the Wahoo on the surface, in full view of Japanese shore batteries and patrol planes, almost daring them to try and stop him. On one famous occasion, after sinking a convoy, He surfaced and sent a taunting message in plain English, "Wahoo on station." This wasn't just arrogance, it was psychological warfare. He wanted the enemy to know who was out there. He wanted them to be afraid. He turned the entire Japanese coast into his personal hunting ground, operating with an impunity that was simply unheard of. He was constantly pushing the limits, not just of his submarine, but of what a submarine was thought to be capable of. His patrols became the stuff of legend, breaking records for tonnage sunk and inspiring a whole new generation of aggressive sub-commanders. Dudley "Mush" Morton and the crew of the USS Wahoo were ultimately lost at sea in October 1943, a testament to the dangerous game they played. But their legacy is immortal. Morton didn't just follow the rules of engagement. He shattered them. He proved that the greatest weapon in war isn't the torpedo or the deck gun, but a bold, innovative, and audacious mind. He was a maverick, a rule breaker, and one of the greatest submarine commanders in history. His story reminds us that sometimes, to win, you have to be willing to do what no one else dares. Part 3, The Golden Age, 20 ships and 5 patrols. The story of the USS Wahoo is the stuff of legend. It's a tale of audacious tactics, incredible skill, and a crew that refused to quit, even when their own weapons failed them. Led by the brilliant and aggressive Dudley "Mush" Morton, Wahoo's 3rd Patrol in early 1943 would go down in history as one of the most successful submarine patrols of all time. It was a rampage that would earn the nickname the Golden Age and solidify Wahoo's place as a true record breaker. Before Morton took command, Wahoo's record was respectable, but not spectacular. But with Morton at the helm and his equally daring executive officer, Richard O'Kane, things were about to change dramatically. They believed in a new kind of warfare, aggressive, relentless, and up close. They weren't just going to sink ships. They were going to hunt them. Their 3rd patrol began in January 1943, with their sights set on the shipping lanes north of New Guinea. Almost immediately, they found their first target, the Japanese freighter Fukui Maru. Instead of a cautious long-range attack, Morton brought Wahoo in close. He fired 3 torpedoes, and down she went. It was a sign of things to come. Just a few days later, they stumbled upon an even juicier target, a convoy, but this convoy was different. It consisted of 2 large passenger cargo ships, a transport, and a tanker, all escorted by a Japanese destroyer. Standard procedure at the time was to avoid engaging destroyers at all costs. They were fast, heavily armed, and their sole purpose was to hunt submarines. Engaging a destroyer was considered suicide. But Mush Morton didn't follow the standard procedure. He saw the destroyer not as a threat, but as an obstacle. To get to the valuable cargo ships, he had to take out the guard dog first. In a move that shocked the submarine force, Morton decided to attack the destroyer head-on. He maneuvered Wahoo into a perfect firing position and launched a single torpedo. It was a direct hit. The destroyer Harasami was crippled, its back broken, and was forced to beach itself for repairs. With the escort out of the way, the convoy was now a flock of helpless sheep. Wahoo turned its attention to the freighters. One by one, they went down. It was a masterclass in submarine warfare. Morton's radical tactic of cleaning the decks, taking out the escorts first, was a game changer. It proved that with enough courage and skill, even the most feared naval vessel was vulnerable. After this stunning success, Wahoo moved north, prowling the waters for more prey. They found it in the Yellow Sea, an area previously considered too shallow and dangerous for American submarines. Morton, ever the gambler, saw it as a target-rich environment that the Japanese wouldn't expect them to enter. He was right. What followed was one of the most productive 24-hour periods for any submarine in the war. They found a convoy of 11 ships. In a series of daring surface and submerged attacks, Wahoo went on an absolute rampage. They sank freighters, transports, and tankers in what became known as the Yellow Sea Massacre. The crew barely had time to reload the torpedo tubes before another target presented itself. They were operating with breathtaking efficiency, a well-oiled machine of destruction. By the time they were done, they had sunk an incredible amount of enemy tonnage in a single day. But their patrol wasn't without its problems. In fact, Wahoo was fighting with one hand tied behind its back. They were plagued by the infamous Mark 14 torpedo, a weapon so unreliable it was the bane of the entire submarine force. These torpedoes often ran deeper than set, had faulty magnetic exploders, or were simply duds that would hit a target with a dull thud and fail to detonate. During their attacks in the Yellow Sea, Morton and his crew experienced this firsthand. They fired perfectly aimed torpedoes that should have been kill shots, only to watch them fail. On one occasion, they hit a large transport, the Nitsu Maru, with multiple torpedoes, none of which exploded. Frustrated but undeterred, Morton surfaced Wahoo and prepared to finish the job with the deck gun. As they closed in, their very last torpedo, which they had fired earlier, finally decided to work. It had been running in a wide circle and came back to hit the ship, sinking it. It was a moment of sheer luck that highlighted the maddening unreliability of their primary weapon. Imagine the frustration. You're deep in enemy territory, risking your life with every move, and your weapons don't work. For many crews, this was a source of deep demoralization. But for the crew of the Wahoo, it only strengthened their resolve. They compensated for the faulty torpedoes with superior tactics, getting dangerously close to their targets to ensure a hit, even if detonation wasn't guaranteed. Their success, in spite of the torpedo crisis, was a testament to their incredible skill and unbreakable spirit. When Wahoo finally returned to Pearl Harbor, the news of their patrol spread like wildfire. They had sunk more ships on this single patrol than many submarines did in their entire careers. The official report, written by Morton in a lively, almost cheeky style, was passed around the entire submarine force. It was electrifying. At a time when the war in the Pacific was still a desperate struggle, Wahoo's success was a massive moral boost. It showed every submariner what was possible. Morton's aggressive tactics, his willingness to challenge doctrine and take calculated risks, inspired a new generation of submarine commanders. They learned from him that passivity was a death sentence and that boldness paid off. The down-the-throat shot at an approaching ship, a tactic Morton perfected, became a staple for many skippers. The Wahoo didn't just sink ships. It ignited a new, more aggressive fighting spirit across the entire silent service. Over the course of 1943, Wahoo continued its incredible run. On its fifth patrol, it sank another 9 ships, bringing its total to an astonishing 20 ships sunk in just 5 patrols under Morton's command. This incredible record made the USS Wahoo the top-scoring American submarine of 1943. She was a legend, the boat that every sailor talked about, the standard by which all others were measured. The story of the Wahoo is more than just numbers and records. It's a story about leadership, innovation, and courage in the face of overwhelming odds. Dudley "Mush" Morton and his crew rewrote the book on submarine warfare. They battled not only the enemy, but also their own faulty equipment, and they won. Their golden age was a brief, brilliant period that changed the course of the submarine war in the Pacific, inspiring a force that would go on to cripple the Japanese Empire. The legend of the USS Wahoo and its fearless crew will forever be remembered as one of the greatest tales of naval history. Part 4. Into the Emperor's Lake, the final fatal mission. In the heart of World War II, one body of water was considered untouchable, an impenetrable fortress for the Japanese Imperial Navy. They called it the Emperor's Lake, but we know it today as the Sea of Japan. For Allied forces, it was a no-go zone, a deadly expanse where enemy ships sailed with impunity. But one American submarine and its legendary commander decided to challenge the impossible. This is the story of the USS Wahoo and its final fatal mission into the lion's den. The USS Wahoo was no ordinary submarine. Under the command of the audacious Dudley "Mush" Morton, it had already earned a fearsome reputation in the Pacific. Morton was a maverick, known for his aggressive, almost reckless tactics that brought incredible success. He wasn't content with sinking one ship at a time. He aimed to clear the seas. By late 1943, Wahoo had sunk more enemy ships than any other submarine in the U.S. fleet. Its crew was a band of brothers, fiercely loyal to their skipper, sharing his thirst for action and victory. They were the tip of the spear, the ghost of the deep, and they were about to embark on their most dangerous patrol yet. Their target, the one place no Allied sub had dared to enter in return from the Sea of Japan. The strategic importance of the Sea of Japan couldn't be overstated. It was the main artery for Japan's war machine, a vital shipping lane connecting the home islands with crucial resources from mainland Asia. Raw materials, troops, and supplies flowed freely, protected by a combination of geography and overwhelming naval power. The entrances to this private lake were few and heavily guarded. The Tsushima Strait to the south was a fortress of naval bases and minefields. The Tsugaru Strait was narrow and treacherous. That left one viable, albeit incredibly risky, entry point: the La Perouse Strait, a narrow channel separating the Japanese island of Hokkaido from the Russian island of Sakhalin. This strait was the gatekeeper to the Emperor's Lake, and it was a deadly one. It was shallow, just over 40 kilometers wide, and relentlessly patrolled by Japanese aircraft and surface ships. Worse still, it was known to be heavily mined. For a submarine, navigating this passage was like walking a tightrope over a pit of vipers. Any mistake, any detection, would mean certain death. The Japanese were confident that no enemy submarine could possibly slip through. They believed their lake was secure. But they hadn't accounted for the sheer nerve of Mush, Morton, and the crew of the Wahoo. In September 1943, with a fresh crew and their battle-tested skipper, Wahoo left port for its 7th war patrol. Its mission: to penetrate the La Perouse Strait, enter the Sea of Japan, and wreak havoc. On September 20th, 1943, the Wahoo reached the edge of the strait. The tension on board must have been immense. Every creak of the hull, every ping on the sonar, could signal their discovery. Morton gave the order to dive, and the Wahoo began its silent, submerged transit. This was the point of no return. For days they would be completely cut off, operating deep behind enemy lines with no hope of backup. They moved slowly, cautiously, hugging the seafloor to avoid mines and sonar detection. Above, Japanese patrol planes crisscrossed the sky, and destroyers listened with their hydrophones. The Wahoo was a ghost, a silent predator slipping past the sentinels. Against all odds, they made it. The Wahoo successfully navigated the La Perouse Strait and emerged into the Sea of Japan. The Emperor's private lake was now their hunting ground. And the hunt began almost immediately. On September 25th, Morton found his first target, and in his typical aggressive style, he didn't just sink it. He annihilated a convoy. Reports from Japanese sources, pieced together later, paint a picture of utter chaos. Wahoo was a phantom menace, striking without warning and disappearing back into the depths. Over the next 2 weeks, the Wahoo rampaged through the Sea of Japan. Ship after ship fell victim to its torpedoes. Morton's radio reports, though brief, were filled with a triumphant tone. "Shooting fish in a barrel," he signaled back to base. He reported sinking several large freighters and tankers, crippling the enemy's vital supply lines. The Japanese high command was in a state of panic. An enemy submarine was operating in their backyard, and they seemed powerless to stop it. They launched a massive, frantic search and destroy operation. Every available anti-submarine vessel and aircraft was mobilized to hunt down this intruder. But Wahoo was always one step ahead. Morton's skill at evasion was as legendary as his aggression. He used the vastness of the sea to his advantage, striking in one area and then speeding to another, leaving the Japanese chasing shadows. The crew, buoyed by their incredible success, felt invincible. They had breached the fortress and were now tearing it apart from the inside. Their morale was sky high. They had proven that the Emperor's Lake was not impenetrable. But their time was running out. Their torpedoes were spent, and their orders were to exit the Sea of Japan by early October and return to base. The plan was to exit the same way they came in, through the treacherous La Perouse Strait. It was a gamble. By now, the Japanese knew an enemy sub was in the area and would have intensified patrols at all the choke points. The strait, already dangerous, would be a gauntlet of death. On October 11, 1943, Wahoo was preparing for its exit. The submarine surfaced long enough to send one final fateful radio message. The message confirmed its position near the strait and stated its intention to pass through on the surface at night. After that transmission, the USS Wahoo went silent. Forever. Days turned into weeks, and the silence from Wahoo became deafening. At Pearl Harbor, Naval Command waited with growing anxiety. Submarines often maintained radio silence on their return journey, but Wahoo was long overdue. The initial optimism faded, replaced by a grim sense of foreboding. Mush Morton was always prompt. Something was terribly wrong. Finally, the Navy officially declared the Wahoo lost, presumed sunk with all 80 hands on board. The hero sub of the Pacific, the Phantom of the Emperor's Lake, was gone. For decades, the exact fate of the Wahoo remained a mystery. What happened on that day in the La Perouse Strait? The answer would only come 60 years later, pieced together from declassified Japanese war records and a painstaking search of the seafloor. The Japanese records from October 11, 1943, tell a chilling story. An American submarine was spotted on the surface in the La Perouse Strait. A combined air and sea attack was immediately launched. A patrol plane dropped depth charges and bombs, reporting a direct hit. Surface ships then converged on the location, plastering the area with more depth charges. An enormous oil slick covering a wide area rose to the surface, a grim confirmation that the submarine below had been destroyed. In 2006, a team of underwater explorers, using this historical data, finally located the wreck of the USS Wahoo resting on the bottom of the La Perouse Strait. The images confirmed the violent end. The submarine had suffered a direct hit near the conning tower, a catastrophic blow that would have sent it to the bottom in seconds. There would have been no time, no escape for the 80 men on board. They died instantly, having just completed one of the most audacious and successful submarine patrols in history. The story of the USS Wahoo is a testament to incredible bravery and sacrifice. Dudley "Mush" Morton and his crew knew the risks. They sailed into the heart of enemy territory, fully aware that they might not return, yet they went anyway. Their daring rage shattered the myth of Japanese invincibility in their home waters, forcing the enemy to divert precious resources to defend an area they once thought was safe. Though their final mission was fatal, their legacy endures. They were pioneers who proved that, with enough courage and skill, no fortress is truly impenetrable. The Wahoo remains on eternal patrol at the bottom of the strait, a silent monument to the heroes who gave everything in the dark, cold depths of the sea. Part 5. The Discovery. 63 years of silence broken. For over 6 decades, the final moments of the submarine USS Wahoo and its legendary commander, Dudley "Mush" Morton, were a mystery, lost to the depths of the Pacific Ocean. Their story is one of incredible bravery, groundbreaking tactics, and a heroic final stand. We break 63 years of silence. In late 1943, the USS Wahoo, one of America's most celebrated submarines, vanished without a trace in the Sea of Japan. On board was its fearless commander, Mush Morton, a man who had single-handedly rewritten the rulebook on submarine warfare. He and his crew were credited with sinking an astonishing number of enemy ships, becoming legends in their own time. But after their 8th war patrol, they simply stopped communicating. The silence was deafening, leaving the Navy and the nation to wonder, what happened to the Wahoo? The theories were many. Did it strike a mine? Was it sunk by a surface ship, or perhaps an aircraft? The Sea of Japan was a fortress, heavily defended and notoriously dangerous. The Wahoo was deep in enemy territory, operating with the kind of audacity that had become Morton's trademark. But this time, it seemed that audacity had met its match. For years, the official record simply read, "Overdue, presumed lost." The 80 men aboard were gone, and their final resting place was unknown. Then, in 2006, after years of painstaking research and a determined search, a breakthrough. A team of divers and researchers, using historical records and advanced sonar technology, focused their search on the La Perouse Strait, the treacherous passage between Hokkaido, Japan, and Sakhalin Island. And there, at the bottom of the cold, dark sea, they found it. The unmistakable silhouette of a Giotto-class submarine resting on the seabed. It was the USS Wahoo. The wreck told a story of a fierce and desperate final battle. Evidence pointed to a coordinated attack. Japanese records, cross-referenced with the location of the wreck, revealed a multi-pronged assault involving patrol boats and shore batteries. But the most telling evidence came from the wreck itself. The conning tower, the submarine's command center, was riddled with holes from a direct hit. It appeared the Wahoo was caught on the surface, attempting to flee the strait. Imagine the scene. Alarms blaring, the sub desperately trying to dive as shells rained down from above. Commander Morton and his men, trapped on the surface, would have known the odds were against them. Yet, they fought. They didn't surrender. The damage to the hull indicated they were hit by at least one aerial bomb, likely dropped by a Japanese aircraft that joined the hunt. This was the blow that sealed their fate, sending the Wahoo and its entire crew to the bottom. It wasn't a stealthy mine or a lucky torpedo. It was a brutal, overwhelming surface attack. They were hunted, cornered, and ultimately destroyed in a heroic last stand. The silence was finally explained by the fury of their final moments. To understand the significance of this loss, you have to understand the man who led them, Dudley "Mush" Morton. He wasn't just a commander, he was a pioneer. Before Morton, American submarine doctrine was cautious, almost timid. Submarines were told to fire one torpedo at a time, conserve their weapons, and avoid taking risks. Morton threw that playbook out the window. He believed in aggressive, relentless attacks. He would surface in broad daylight, use his deck guns, and fire entire spreads of torpedoes to guarantee a kill. His motto was simple: sink 'em all. His tactics were revolutionary and highly effective. On just one patrol, the Wahoo sank so many ships that they ran out of torpedoes, and famously returned to port flying a broomstick from their mast, signifying a clean sweep. Morton taught the entire submarine force how to fight and win. He inspired a generation of submariners to be bold, to take the fight to the enemy. His methods became the new standard, directly contributing to the crippling of Japan's merchant marine and war machine. Men like Richard O'Kane, his executive officer who would go on to become the top submarine ace of the war, learned at Morton's side. The legacy of Mush Morton is etched into the very fabric of modern submarine warfare. He was a true trailblazer whose influence is still felt today. The discovery of the USS Wahoo brought closure to the families who had waited for over 60 years. It answered the question of what happened, but it also served as a powerful reminder of the human cost of war. The 80 men who went down with their ship were not just statistics. They were sons, husbands, and fathers. They were volunteers who chose one of the most dangerous jobs in the military, knowing the risks. Their sacrifice, and the sacrifice of thousands like them, secured the freedoms we enjoy today. Finding the Wahoo wasn't about celebrating war, it was about honoring the warrior. It reminds us that behind the grand strategies and historical dates are stories of individual courage and incredible valor. Mush Morton and his crew paid the ultimate price, but their legacy of bravery and innovation endures. Their story is a testament to the spirit of those who go into the deep, dark waters, fighting for a cause greater than themselves. We owe them a debt of honor that can never be fully repaid, but must always be remembered. The silence is broken, and in its place is a story of heroism that will echo through the ages. Thanks for watching, And don't forget to subscribe for more stories of history and discovery.